All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'm sure you all have really busy days, so we really appreciate you taking the time out to hear about smarter texting with Hustle. I'm Shay Morsey, Director of Client Success based in San Francisco. I've been working at the intersection of nonprofits and technology for over 10 years now and joined Hustle in early 2017. In that time, it's been pretty incredible to see the evolution of the platform. And a lot of the credit beyond the feedback, lots of feedback from our clients, goes to my two co-hosts for today's webinar, Victoria Kennedy and Evan Purcell. I'll pass it to Victoria to introduce herself further.
Hi, I'm Victoria, and I'm a Senior Product Manager at Hustle from our New York office. I joined Hustle late 2017 and been really excited to see Hustle grow and the product grow along the way. So I'm really excited today to share with all of you kind of what we've been working on and what we plan to be working on in the future. So thank you all for coming.
Cool. And I'm Evan Purcell. I'm also a Senior Product Manager here at Hustle. I work in our SF office. I joined Hustle last year and have also been super excited about seeing all the great growth in terms of our product and in all the great clients that we've brought on board.
All right. Thanks, Evan. 2019 has been a really big one for the Hustle product. Being here a couple of years, I can definitely say that. We've released more new features actually in the last 6 months than any other time in Hustle's history. Today, we're going to share a few of those new features with you and talk about how they can improve your text campaigns. For today's agenda, first, we'll do just a very quick overview of what Hustle is and why so many people are looking to integrate texting into their strategies. We're going to do a live demo of the many improvements to a key component called goals. And we'll also cover some improvements to the agent app, admin tools, and for those of you using Blackbaud Luminate Online, stick around for a little longer because we're going to also cover some information about the integration. All right, so quick overview for Hustle newcomers. What is it? What is Hustle? It's a one-to-one or peer-to-peer texting platform that allows you to reach supporters, donors, alumni, etc., with personal text messages at scale. Peer-to-peer differs from broadcast or blast platforms in a couple ways. While broadcast messages come from a short code and are sent all at once, Hustle messages are a little different. They come from a real phone number and are sent individually very quickly from a human. Hustle allows you also to really engage folks in conversations. So it's not necessarily just an announcement. It's actually really looking to drive folks to action as well. All right, so why are folks leveraging Hustle? It's really in the numbers, as most things are. So people really, they open text messages from a real phone number. The average open rate is over 90%. They also respond. So Hustle users generally see average engagement rates from 20 to 25%, although rates of 50%, depending on your audience, are not uncommon. And they follow through. So having a conversation with folks and really engaging them impacts conversion. There's a new link tracking feature in Hustle that you're going to see in a few minutes. And the average click-through rate on that is 21%. That's a lot higher than other channels that we're seeing. And now for the fun stuff, I'm going to pass it over to Evan to share what's new with goals.
Great. Thank you, Shay. And yeah, I'm super excited to talk through all the great features that we've rolled out, or many of the great features since the beginning of the year. For those of you who haven't used Hustle before, the goal is one of sort of the main concepts within Hustle. Basically, it's sort of where you configure your texting campaign. So this is where you set up the dates that you're going to be texting. You select who's going to be doing the texting. You select who the people who are doing the texting are then going to go text, and the messaging they'll be using to do so. So a really important part of our product. It sort of kicks everything off. And so in order to sort of show you all the great features that we've launched here, I'm going to do the what I think is exceptionally brave thing of doing a live demo in front of several hundred people here. I've switched over now to the Hustle admin app and the Hustle admin interface. And you can see actually immediately here that this UI has actually gotten a lot nicer since the beginning of the year. which we're really happy with. We've made a lot of visual improvements here that we're super proud of. So what I'll do then is I will go ahead and start creating a new goal or a new texting campaign. I'm doing this, by the way, as Evan's Nonprofit, which is the nonprofit organization that I may or may not actually run. And let's imagine here that as the person who is running this nonprofit, I'd like to send a link to my supporters. And let's say this is because I want to kick off my summer fundraising drive, and I want to send people a link to a fundraising page. Though, of course, you could send a link to really any kind of page at all. So I just switched this goal. I'm going to say that I'm going to switch the type over to the share a link goal type. And so what I'll do here is I'll just scroll down and go straight to sort of the link field where you're going to plug in the link that specifies who exactly you're going to text. And I'll start with my link here. I am going to, let's say, link people to my website, which is notactuallyevan.org. That is actually the website of a magician, interestingly enough. But you'll see that there's a new checkbox here. This here is brand new. And if I click this checkbox, it allows me to actually track the clicks on the links that I send out. And so why is this important? Well, in general, if you're messaging, really anyone as an organization or as a business, you want to know how effective those messages are. You want to see if people are actually taking the action that you hope that they're actually going to take, whether it's sending in a donation, whether it's actually making a purchase. You want to see if the links that you're sending or whatever mechanism you're using to contact people are actually generating the action that you're hoping. And so then by clicking this box, we enable you to actually see not just how many people, not just how many times your links were clicked, but also exactly who clicked on those links. So then you can actually go and directly message people who say maybe clicked but didn't respond with really precise targeted messaging to make sure that you can then re-engage them and start a new conversation with them and maybe get them to take some other action in the future. We do this by using short links, not unlike Bitly, for example, is a short link provider that you may have heard of. And we actually provide several different short link options here, so you can make sure that it really fits whatever use case it is that you're trying to get, whatever kind of action it is that you're trying to get people to take. So that's our new link tracking feature. We're super excited because we think it adds a lot of trackability and a lot of the ability to really understand your ROI in using SMS via Hustle. So let's say now that I'm actually going to change gears here a little bit, and rather I've decided actually I'm going to pause on sending out links. Instead, I'm actually going to try to get people to come to to a fundraiser, an in-person fundraiser. So I'm going to name my goal here. I'm going to call it Summer Fundraiser. And as we scroll down, I'm going to leave the event time as it is. I'm going to say that I'm going to set this assignment strategy here. But the real feature I want to talk about here is the way that we've revamped targeting. Targeting is really critical. It determines who exactly you're going to text with your message. Who you text has a big impact on exactly what the outcome is going to be of your messaging. And we've actually totally revamped the way that targeting works in Hustle. It's now, we think, a lot more powerful and a lot simpler to use. And so by default, this goal targets all the contacts that are in the group associated with this goal. And you can see that with this sentence here. However, we've added this new concept of filters. And so what I can do is basically use filters to winnow down the number of people that I'm targeting and the specific people that I'm targeting to make sure that I'm targeting exactly the right people. So, for example, I might have tagged certain people as being people who may have previously donated, if I'm talking about a fundraising event, people who've previously bought, if I'm talking about something that's commercial. And now I can actually target anyone who may have been tagged with any tags that I've created for those people. people who've been tagged with all of a set of tags that have applied, or none of those tags. And we have similar functionality for custom fields. So if you have a custom field that says, say, this is the city that someone lives in, then we can target people who only live in a given city, or target people who may have any value or no value for a given custom field. The thing I really want to focus on, though, is goal results, because we've made it now such that you can actually target people based on what they did in a previous texting campaign. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to only message contacts who are targeted in a previous goal. This is a goal that I created a little while ago called First Fundraise. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, what happened once they were in that goal? So among the things that you can target on are whether they said yes or no to a previous ask, or if indeed there was no result at all marked within that ask. I can target people who responded to that goal, or even people who did not respond to that previous goal, just to make sure that you're getting the maximal contact that you can out of these various contacts. Or if the agent actually skipped. So then within this, let's say that for this fundraise, I want to target people who maybe never responded, or I'm sorry, they never responded down here, or if they were marked with a no, to say sort of reach out to those people who might be a little bit harder to get and send a very specific targeted message to them. And then I hit done. And you can see here that this number has now gone down from 20 to 9. So we filtered down the number of people that we're actually going to target down to just 9 contacts. So you can just imagine how if you can connect several goals together, your ability to actually create pretty sophisticated campaigns within Hustle has just gotten quite a bit better. The next thing I want to call out is some of the changes that we've made to our script editor. So as you know, a very important part of any contact that you're making is what you're actually saying to the people that you're contacting. And so we spent a lot of time making our script editor a lot better than what it used to be. So you can see that actually we've revamped this UI to be much more powerful. You can see that we have a lot of different options here, all sort of really nicely, crisply defined for various variables that you can add that will be different for every message. We have a brand new emoji picker that we've added, so you can get really SMS-y and really leverage those great emoji that people love to get. And a new image picker as well, so that you can attach MMS or images too. On the right-hand side here is where a lot of the really magic stuff has happened. Here you can see the brand new script analysis tag field. And so here we're actually, over the course of the many years that Hustle has been around, we've learned lots about the best practices in terms of how you actually start and continue a texting relationship with your contacts. And we want to really bring that intelligence right into the product so that you can take advantage of it every time you text. And so these sort of script analysis stuff that you see here, we think will really help drive deliverability and engagement in a really big way. So as I'm typing here, let's say I just add some random characters. And you can see that actually this is switched from green to yellow, where now we're saying, hey, this message is too long. This may get split into multiple messages, which is something that can happen with SMS. And we suggest shortening it to make sure that doesn't happen. And if I fix it, it goes right back. And there's other best practices that are listed here, along with some explanatory text as well. We've also added this new preview functionality. This lets you basically see, for example, what a message will look like when you actually plug in the specific variables, which can help make sure that your messages are completely perfect before you start a campaign. And we have this new sending a text functionality. So if I click this, you see this little message sent pop-up that showed up. And because I'm not presenting on my phone, you unfortunately will not see the text message that I just got. I promise you, I did get that text message, and it says pretty much exactly what you say here, so that I can see quite clearly that indeed these messages are going to come through and look great, and then share that with coworkers or with really anyone else before I actually go ahead and launch my campaign. So that's our new our new script editor. We're super excited about these changes. We hope it makes it that much less stressful to actually start a campaign. So yes. The last thing I want to call out is actually I'll actually go back to where I just was. It's actually something that's been on the screen really the entire time, which is this save draft functionality. So if I want to actually, we know that actually starting any sort of messaging campaign where you're talking to tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, it is super important to make sure that everything is just right before you send. And that really, we hope, that really sending a message to that many people, it can be something that's stressful. You want to make sure that it's right before it goes out. So we've added this new save draft functionality. So now you can actually, without actually kicking off the actual sending of the goal, you can just save the draft. And then, assuming it actually saves, there we go. You can now go back and review and edit any field, including targeting, anything at all within that goal. Make sure it's exactly right before you actually hit the big launch button. Oops, I forgot that field. There we go. Before you hit the launch button, and then we can be off to the races. The last thing that I'll call out here is our new duplication functionality. So building a new campaign, I mean, you saw, there's a lot of different things that you need to actually set up in order to get a texting campaign going. We want to make sure that once you've actually input that information, that it's as easy as possible to take full advantage of that and spread that work that you've done to be available to as many different people within your organization as possible. And so to that end, we've revamped our goal duplication feature. So this feature already existed before, but now it's a lot more powerful. We now duplicate as goal drafts. So what that means is that then just as before, where I showed you that you can actually edit all the fields within a goal draft, you can now then make your duplication, and after the duplication, you can change targeting, you can change your message, you can change whatever you want. So that just means that there's many more cases now where duplication is something that can really save you, hopefully, quite a bit of work. We've also made it so that you can actually duplicate cross-group as well, so that you can actually, here I've made this other group, and I can duplicate to both of those groups in one go. So you can imagine creating one goal, maybe it's even a template for a goal that you want to then modify in every group, spread it out across all those groups, and then make further changes actually in those groups and go in and hit launch once you're there as well. So that's it. That's a lot of our new goals functionality. As a quick review, we have our new link tracking feature. And by the way, as Shay mentioned, we see a 21% click-through rate on links that are sent through SMS, which is really good. We're super excited about that. It really speaks to the power of SMS overall. With our new targeting functionality, you can now retarget on the results of previous goals. We've updated our script editor to make it much more powerful and modern. We've added much more sophisticated goal drafts so that you can actually save goals for later, review, edit, change, make sure that everything is working right, and then hit launch. And we have a much more powerful goal duplication feature to make sure that all the work that you're putting into creating a goal is really easy to leverage over and over again. So those are some of the bigger features that we've launched, but we also have a lot of other very exciting features in other various parts of the Hustle app. One of the most important things about Hustle is, of course, and the most important experiences, is the experience that your agents have when they're actually sending the messages themselves. And so there's one really major feature that we've launched around this, which you could argue is potentially one of the most important features of all, which is making it so it's really fast to send messages. On the right-hand side here, I hope this GIF is coming through nicely over video, but this is not a sped-up GIF. This is actually showing that you can more or less right now send messages just as quickly as you can tap the send button, which meant that then, for those of you that received a text from Kate asking for questions for the webinar, I promise it did not take her too much time to send those because of the features that we added just here. These messages are now sending 5 times faster on a per message basis than they used to. That also means that now agents can send up to 3,600 messages per hour. And actually, I say up to, but that 3,600 number, that is actually on average right now how many messages people are able to send per hour if they dedicate a whole hour to texting. That's a lot. That's a lot more than it was before. And we think that that means that you can now send more messages with fewer people and just make your use Hustle that much more effectively and that much more broadly. And honestly, it just makes Hustle more pleasant to use and more fun to use. So we're just super excited about this feature. I also want to call out here that these changes are cross-platform. So that means that, we're both faster on our web agent app, where people are doing the sending, and on our mobile apps on iOS and Android, which we find that particularly distributed organizations really love. Those apps are also much faster now than they were in the past. So we think this is a really great improvement of our product. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Victoria, who's going to speak to some of the other changes we've made to our admin tools.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. So first, I want to start with one of our new features, which is the org activity page. So say that you are doing something like a webinar where you're doing a series of webinars across the country in different locations, and you're running a number of goals to invite people to these webinars, much like Kate did with hustling all the RSVPs for this webinar. And as you can see here, if we're looking across all these goals, you can see the percentage of messages being sent if you follow this green bar. You can also see the engagement rate, so you can see how many people are actually responding, engaging with the people sending the text. We can also see the action rate. So if you're asking people to come to a webinar, we're seeing here that 12% are saying yes. So you can see across your organization all of the activity around these goals to get people to come to your event. In addition, you can see, say in one location, you have a goal set up, but no message has been sent yet. We want to draw you attention to that. So we have a new section called Needs Attention, where we show goals where no messages have been sent and the goal's about to end within the next 24 hours. So that way you can notify the right people and make sure those invites get sent out and make sure you get those attendees for your webinar. And then on the next screen, we really also want to be able to see what's happening across your organization and what you have available. So the number of in-progress goals again, seeing how many agents you have available, seeing how many contacts you message, and seeing how many opt-outs you have. So really just those key metrics around what's recently happened in the past 7 days with your organization, so you have a really great understanding of your org's impact. And then you can go down and say if you recently maybe did a series of like in-person events, you can see all of those different completed goals. So you can see how many of those messages again were sent. You can see the total engagement rate and the total action rate for all those. So you really want this page to be a way for you to go and see in Hustle all the different activity that's happening in Hustle and to be able to act quickly on the things that matter. So if goals, messages aren't being sent, if there's a high opt-out rate, you know that really quickly. We help you find that really quickly. You can go and talk to the people needed to make sure those messages get sent. And if there's any kind of things happening with the goals that are causing a high opt-out rate, you have that information. But then you can see on a high level all the different impact that your organization is having in terms of agents available and what you've completed in the past. So really what we want to do with the activity page is make it super transparent, easy for you to see what's currently happening in Hustle, what your impact is, and make sure it's really easy for you to act on that information. The next thing we brought up is the timing report. So something that gets asked often every time someone starts Hustle, or when is the best time of the day to send a text message? How do you know that? How do you make sure you're getting the best responses and you're sending effectively? And what we've seen in general is that usually the uptake is around at the lunch hour at the end of day. But what we've done is we also made a time report so that you could really see what makes sense for your organization. So you can see in this report that you can see across the 24-hour period, what are the times of day that we're getting the highest engagement rate. And as you hustle more and you get more and more information, you'll be able to understand when should you be sending those texts specifically for your organization so they're getting the maximum effect and you're getting the maximum engagement with the people you're reaching out to. The next thing we have here is first come, first serve. So we know that response time is super important. You have increased engagement with your audiences. You have much better action rates. You have much better overall experience with Hustle when people respond very quickly. So your agents respond really quickly once contact actually responds to your initial message. However, people are people and they're not always available. So sometimes people, they take lunch, they have to leave for work. Maybe it's a volunteer shift, and so they've completed their, X hour number of shifts that they were going to do. But leads are still replying. So when leads reply, we want to make sure that those replies are replied to by agents and aren't just left there. And we've seen that it just provides a much greater experience when people are responded to very quickly. So we've created this response window that makes it really easy for on a first come, first served basis to make sure that the conversation is quickly transferred to another agent if the original agent is no longer available. So as you can see in this GIF, you can select your own time windows of 5 minutes, 20 minutes, up to 24 hours. What we've seen over time with this feature is that we have a 20% increase in conversations handled by agents, which means more people being talked to, more people feeling like they've been really engaged by the organizations reaching out to them. But also what's really important as well is making sure that if someone reaches back out to your organization in response to a message that you sent them, that they are immediately welcomed by someone else who can give them the answers and really engage with them. Next up is org duplication. So one big feature we added last year with Hustle is this concept of accounts. So under account, you can have multiple organizations. And part of the reason we did this is so as you grow in your use of Hustle and as more people in your organization use Hustle, you can have more and more orgs. But we want to make that as quick and easy as possible for you to do. So what you can do now is if you go to your account view and for any of your existing organizations, you can duplicate that organization. So you can rename that organization and change the location, but you can also choose which general settings, administrators, hours of operation, tags, and custom fields you can transfer over. So that way, if you already know the people who are going to be setting up your goals and doing the agent work, you can port those people over. If you already have a standard number of hours of operation, so you only send text from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., that information is already ported over. Tags and custom fields are already ported over. That way, you have set up to be really easy, and the people using Hustle can just get started really quickly and start sending those text messages and creating those goals. So just a little recap here. First with the activity page, really the big thing here is seeing what's happening in Hustle right now. And this is really exciting for us because there's so much activity happening in Hustle. So many people are reading Hustle. We've gotten up to millions and millions of messages being sent daily, but it was really, really hard for people to understand what's going on. And this page really helps people understand what kind of goals are you doing now, what's the progress on the goals, and if there's any issues to help you understand and rectify those issues right away. For reporting, insight into timing, tags, and agents. So really being able to not only understand what's generally good in Hustle, but what's good for your organization. So be able to see and learn as you do more and more hustling, what really works for you and to keep improving on that. Then we have first come, first served response windows. So again, we've improved agents' responses to leads by 20% and making sure no text message ever goes unanswered and making sure that everyone has a really great experience on Hustle and hustling with your organization. And then finally, we have org duplication, which is really part of our big effort to make sure you can scale your use of Hustle really, really quickly and reduce the setup time for organizations. All right, so now that we've done a review of what we've done in the past 6 months, we want to talk about what's coming up soon. So preview what's coming up next, conversation insights. So this feature is really around reviewing and automatically showing you what are the most interesting and noteworthy conversations. So what are the really unique, special conversations your organization is having and making those really apparent to you so that you can see those and share those with stakeholders, share those with people, your organization to really motivate them and help them understand why Hustle is so great and what kind of value you're getting out of these conversations. The second thing we're looking into is suggested lead actions. So this is a way to help your agents really intelligently mark the data that's coming into Hustle. So when they're having these conversations and you're inviting people to events, like something like a webinar, if that response looks like it might be a yes or a no, this suggests how the agent should mark that conversation and allows that agent to capture conversations a lot easier. And that way, not only is the agent having a much better experience, but we're making sure that we're collecting the appropriate data for when agents are having these kind of conversations. Next up is script library. So this is really great in terms of making it really easy to do lots of hustling all the time and making sure you're using your time effectively. So script library, you'll be able to save, edit, and reuse scripts at the org level, so across all of your different goals. That way you're only creating scripts one time, and you can just pop them into all the goals you're using, edit them as necessary. If you need to make sure it's more relevant to a webinar versus an in-person event, and then use those scripts accordingly. And that way it's much easier for you to manage and much easier for people to reuse scripts and make goals and texting people over time more efficient. And lastly, we really want to stress that it's really important for us to make a lot of system improvements for 2020. 2020 is such an important time for Hustle and a lot of organizations that we work with. And we want to make sure that you trust us to be a reliable and secure place as you use Hustle over the next year and a half, scaling up to 2020. So we're investing in making sure, like speaking messages, that's reliable when we're getting millions and millions of messages sent out, that things like CSV upload are reliable, making sure all your information is secure so that we can really be a trusted partner for you as you're reaching out and engaging with people around 2020. And I think that's it. I'm going to pass it back over to Shay to answer some of the questions that Kate graciously collected from Hustling Everyone earlier.
All right, thanks, Victoria. I know that was a lot of new stuff, so there are lots of places to follow up on all of that. But first of all, thank you everybody who texted Kate back with some of your questions. We obviously can't get to all of them today, but we can cover a few of the most common ones that came in. So the first one, which new features are most helpful for fundraising? Honestly, and as a former fundraiser, there are a lot of things in here that will be really helpful. But two of the top ones I'd say are link tracking and goal drafts and duplication. The ability to track who clicks a link in addition to overall performance of the campaign in the product itself, and then target based on that action or inaction in some cases is incredibly useful. And I'm seeing a lot of folks get some use out of that already. And then goal drafts and duplication, pretty straightforward, but basically less work for whoever is doing that setup, and making sure that, once you're testing out scripts and seeing what works best, that you can easily duplicate those and make them work for you. Number two, what limitations are there on group admins in terms of exporting member contact info from Hustle? That's totally up to you. So basically, in the settings portion of Hustle, you can set whether or not you want group admins to be able to export contact info. So go wild, whatever you want to do. And then number three, can you text in languages other than English? Yeah, you can. We have clients that are texting in more than 15 different languages. There's actually a really great blog post from a little bit ago featuring one of our partners. It's at blog.hustle.com, and you can check out to see a little bit more what that looks like in real life. And then best practices for preventing text fatigue of membership. Thank you for asking that question. That's obviously something that we all want to avoid as a community within the texting sphere. So a couple things. Write great scripts, make sure they're personal, make sure they're relevant, engage with contacts in a way that makes sense to the audience. And also, when folks take time to engage with you, make sure that you're responsive to them as well. And so we want to make sure, and first come, first serve goals can certainly help with that, but we want to make sure that we're respecting the fact that they took the time to engage and get back to them as quickly as possible and make sure that our follow through is great. Okay, so don't leave yet. There's a few more pieces, but I want to make sure to call out if you have some more questions, if you're a future hustler, email sales@hustle.com. Current users, you can go ahead and get in contact with your client success manager. There's also release notes at help.hustle.com. And then if you're a Blackbaud user, please stick around as well, because we're going to go through the integration there. Folks, thank you so much for taking the time today. It has been a pleasure working with a lot of you, and I'm really excited about where we've been the last 6 months and before that, and where we're going. So thank you so much for taking time and for the work. All right, Blackbaud Luminate Online users, please stick around. I'm gonna hand it to Victoria to do a quick overview of our integration.
Great, thanks so much, Shay. And like Shay said, we're just gonna quickly go over our newest integration, which is with Blackbaud Luminate. And as just kind of like an overview for context, the real goal around our Blackbaud Luminate integration, much like our Salesforce and Van integrations, is to get context as easily as possible from your CRM of choice into Hustle, and then get that relevant data out of Hustle back into your CRM. So We're just going to walk through the steps of how you would set up the Blackbaud Luminate integration in Hustle. So the first thing you would do is go into your org and go to our integrations tab and set up this integration. And then to do that, you would need your username, password, and API key from your Blackbaud Luminate instance. And once you set that up, you would also agree to Hustle's integration terms and conditions. And once you set that up, we'll just authenticate and make sure that's the appropriate instance to integrate with. Next, you would go into Blackbaud and get the group ID. So that group ID is really important because that determines the context that you'll pull into Hustle. So once you get that group ID, you'll go to step 2. So you'll set up an import to a group in Hustle from a group in Blackbaud. So we'll type in that group ID that we got from Blackbaud. We'll click next, and we'll actually import everything from that group. And if you go back to that next slide, what we do is we actually sync the Hustle group with the Blackbaud group. So as you make changes in Blackbaud, those changes will be reflected in Hustle by pushing that refresh button when you actually go to the group in Hustle. So that way there's real-time sync between what's happening in Blackbaud and what's happening in Hustle. So you have the latest information. You can really make sure you're texting people with the most information possible. And great, then you start hustling them. So once you hustle people, once you have those great conversations, they RSVP to your events, all of that information goes back into Blackbaud. So we send those messages, we send those lead actions, which is that yes or no response to the event, or whether they want to donate, or any of the other asks you might have for them. We send that information back. We also send back the click. So if you use link tracking, we make sure that information goes about who's clicked on your links. And then we also send out opt-out information. So that way it's really clear if people choose not to hear from you again, that we make sure that information goes back into Blackbaud. So just to sum it up, we make it as easy as possible to integrate Blackbaud with Hustle by being able to sync Blackbaud groups with Hustle groups, make sure we import all the information around those contacts, and then send back any information that happened with Hustle, which is the messages, leads, clicks, and opt-out rates. Great. So just to close it up, thank you all so much for attending. If you are thinking about being a future Hustle user, please contact sales@hustle.com. If you're already a current Hustle user and you have questions, please contact your client success manager. Again, thank you all for coming, and it was great talking to you all.